Have you ever had a neighbor who just doesn't understand boundaries? I'm not talking about the kind who borrows sugar and forgets to return it. I mean the kind who treats your property like it's theirs without a single ounce of shame. That was my reality when Karen entered the picture. And trust me, what started as a small annoyance quickly spiraled into a showdown that I promise you won't forget. It all began on a warm Tuesday morning. I was dragging my garbage cans back from the curb after collection day. That's when I noticed something strange. My bins were already half full again. At first, I thought maybe the garbage truck had missed a bag. But when I opened the lid, staring back at me were trash bags that didn't belong to me. Greasy takeout containers, crumpled soda cans, and an entire pizza box smeared with marinara. I don't eat pizza on weekdays. That was my first clue. At first, I shrugged it off. Mistakes happen, right? Maybe someone's trash blew into my bin. Maybe the collectors mixed things up. But then the next week, it happened again. And the week after that, every Tuesday, without fail, my bins were filled with someone else's garbage. I decided to play detective. Early one morning, before the garbage truck made its rounds, I grabbed a cup of coffee, sat near my window, and watched. That's when I saw her, Karen, my next-door neighbor, strutting across the lawn in her pink robe and fluffy slippers, carrying two giant black trash bags like she was on some sort of morning stroll. Without hesitation, she lifted the lid to my bin and dumped the bags inside. Then she gave a little satisfied nod and walked back as if she owned the entire block. I couldn't believe it. She wasn't even trying to hide it. She was bold, entitled, and worst of all, completely unapologetic. I marched outside later that day and decided to confront her. "Hey, Karen," I said politely, "I think some of your trash ended up in my cans this morning." She smirked, not even a shred of guilt in her expression. "Oh, don't worry about it," she said, waving her hand. "You've got space. Besides, the garbage truck takes it all anyway. What's the big deal?" The big deal? My bins were constantly overflowing. My yard smelled like old fish, and on more than one occasion, the collectors refused to take them because they were too full. But to Karen, my frustration was nothing but an inconvenience to her perfect little world. That's when I realized this wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. And if Karen thought she could keep using my trash cans for free, she was in for a surprise she'd never forget. The morning after Karen's smug little dismissal, I couldn't stop replaying her words in my head. What's the big deal? That phrase echoed like nails on a chalkboard. To her, dumping her trash in my bins was nothing. To me, it was a violation of basic respect. And the more I thought about it, the more determined I became to make a stand. So, I came up with a plan. The following week, I deliberately left my bins completely empty. No garbage from my house at all. I wanted to see if Karen would still make her move. Sure enough, right after breakfast, there she was again. Robe, slippers, and her trusty trash bags. She waltzed across the yard like it was her morning workout, lifted the lid, and tossed them in. Only this time, I was ready. I walked out with my phone, camera rolling. "Good morning, Karen," I said, loud enough for the neighborhood to hear. She froze like a deer in headlights, her hand still gripping the lid. "Mind explaining why your trash keeps ending up in my bins?" Her face turned red. "Are you seriously filming me?" "That's harassment," she snapped. But the video didn't lie. I had her caught in the act, and I told her as much. "This isn't harassment, Karen. This is evidence. So, unless you want this shared with the HOA, maybe you should start using your own cans." For a split second, I thought I'd won. She slammed the lid down, stormed back to her house, and I figured that was the end of it. But oh no, Karen wasn't the type to back down. Later that night, long after the street was quiet, I peeked out my window and saw her sneaking across the lawn with a flashlight and, yep, you guessed it, more trash bags. She wasn't just dumping them in my bins anymore. She was cramming them down so deep the lids barely closed, ensuring they'd be full by morning. It was her way of saying, "You can't stop me." I'll admit, part of me wanted to laugh at how ridiculous it had become. But the smell the next day was no joke. The garbage men left my bins untouched, citing excess waste. That was the breaking point. Karen wanted a garbage war. Fine. She just declared it. And I was about to fight back with something she'd never see coming. By this point, I wasn't just annoyed. I was fueled by pure determination. Karen had made it her mission to dump her life's leftovers into my bins, and I decided it was time to turn the tables. If she wanted to play dirty, then dirty was exactly what she was going to get. I started small. One evening, instead of tossing my regular trash, I filled a bag with, let's call it, creative waste. Leftovers from dinner that I let sit out just a little too long. Eggshells, chicken bones, old milk, the kind of stuff that doesn't just smell, it ferments. Then I carefully placed the bag at the very top of my bin, waiting for Karen to make her usual morning visit. Sure enough, the next day, she strutted over and, without looking, lifted the lid and shoved her bags in. The moment her trash pressed against mine, the bag burst open. Sour milk oozed, the stench of rotting eggs filled the air, and I swear I saw her gag. She quickly slammed the lid and scurried back like nothing happened. But I wasn't done. The next week, I escalated. I filled another bag, this time with shredded paper soaked in ketchup and soy sauce, just enough to create a slimy, sticky mess. I knew she liked cramming her bags deep down. So, when she pushed hers in that morning, her hands went straight into the goo. From my window, I caught her muttering curses as she wiped her hands on her robe. It was working. She was irritated, frustrated, but still too stubborn to quit. That's when I decided to get really creative. I went to a local bait shop and bought a container of old fish guts they were about to throw away. I wrapped it tightly, but not tight enough to stop the stench. When Karen came by, she tossed her bags in and immediately recoiled. She lifted the lid again, sniffed, and her nose scrunched like she'd just walked into a landfill. She didn't know it, but at that moment, she'd walked right into my trap. The fish guts weren't just there to gross her out. They were the bait for something bigger. Because, you see, I had one last move left. Something that would make sure Karen thought twice before ever touching my trash cans again. And this time, it wasn't just about garbage. It was about teaching her a lesson she'd never forget. By now, Karen had endured sour milk explosions, sticky ketchup traps, and the unmistakable stench of fish guts. Any normal person would have taken the hint. But Karen? No, she was as stubborn as they come. That's when I realized it wasn't enough to gross her out. I had to embarrass her in a way that would make her never try it again. So, I set the stage. First, I installed a motion-activated camera right above my bins. I wanted crystal clear footage, not just shaky cell phone video. Then I prepared my masterpiece, a garbage bag filled with nothing but harmless but humiliating props. Think glitter, shredded confetti, and a handful of water balloons tucked inside, all sealed up, ready to burst at the slightest shove. The morning of collection day, I waited. Sure enough, right on schedule, out came Karen. She looked around, made sure the coast was clear, and tiptoed across the yard with her usual black bags. She opened my bin, pushed hers inside, and boom, the balloons popped, the glitter exploded, and, for the first time ever, Karen screamed. A cloud of shiny sparkles rained down, coating her robe, her slippers, even her hair. It was glorious. She stood there, covered in rainbow dust, staring at my bin like it had betrayed her. Meanwhile, my camera was catching every second in stunning high definition. I walked outside, phone in hand, trying my best not to laugh. "Morning, Karen. You dropped something." Her face turned beet red. She sputtered, trying to explain, but there was no way out. The glitter clung to her like a badge of shame, and she knew I had all the proof I needed. Later that afternoon, I sent her a simple message with a screenshot from the footage. Next time, the HOA gets the full video. And you know what? That was the last time Karen ever touched my trash cans. Suddenly, she found plenty of space in her own. My bins stayed clean. The garbage collectors stopped refusing my pickups, and peace finally returned to the neighborhood. Sometimes, justice doesn't come in the form of courtrooms or cops. Sometimes, it comes in the form of glitter, fish guts, and a little creative thinking. Karen thought she could dump her problems on me forever. Instead, she ended up with a garbage lesson she'll never forget. So, if you ever find yourself dealing with a Karen in your life, remember this: you don't always need to fight fire with fire. Sometimes, fighting trash with trash is way more effective. And that's how I taught Karen a lesson she'll never forget. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to smash that like button, hit subscribe for more crazy neighbor drama, and drop a comment down below. Tell me, what would you have done if Karen kept using your trash cans? I'll be reading and replying to the best ones.